Tommy Cairns and the coach here at one of the great radio stations in the country, KHTS AM 1220. I'm not kidding when I say that. Also one of the most popular websites in the country. Unbelievable. HometownStation.com. You can listen live if you like our show. You can listen on your computer, but better yet, download the app. Yes, KHTS AM in the App Store, AM 1220 in the App Store. Incredible show today on Job Talk 1. We're going to, our first segment, Tommy, can I call you Tommy?
You can.
Who calls you Tommy? Anybody?
Only my cousins.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, you look like a Tommy. Tom is boring.
Actually, well, I grew up in an area where Tommy was a common thing, yeah.
So, Bob, we had a pre-interview with him. What a great personality. Bob Preziosi. I'm going to get this right, seriously. Bob Preziosi.
Perfect.
How do you say it?
And you got it right.
How do you say it, Preziosi?
Preziosi, Coach. That's exactly correct.
Yeah, Professor Bob is a professor at a very prestigious university in near Fort Lauderdale. Well, what's the? I mean, for you to be there as a professor, and then Tommy to graduate from there, this school's got to be really something else. What's the name of it?
It's the Huizenga College of Business and Entrepreneurship. We have the namesake of the world-famous entrepreneur Wayne Huizenga.
Oh, okay, got it. Sure, owned the Miami Dolphins, owned every car.
The Florida Panthers, Blockbuster.
Yeah, you've got quite a resume. I'm reading. It's too long to bore people to death, but it's an incredible resume. The only thing I would say is get off the Who's Who in America thing. Your Who's Who in America teachers. I mean, your who's who. Never mind. Anyway, great resume. So
Thank you.
You're going to be a cast member when we go daily here pretty soon. You'll be on with us at least every week, maybe twice a week, if you can contribute. Well, you've got to be able to contribute. You got to be able to be an asset. You got to be able to be fun like you are. And
Thank
today,
you. I am so full of everything. I can contribute to just about anything you want to talk about, except finance and economics.
Yeah, that's
We
what.
can probably talk about economics.
All right, Tommy and I can handle that. So I want to get into.
Right,
I want to get into it. I want to help people get a job. People are listening all over America to Job Talk 1 on our website, jobtalk1.com. You can go there and listen live, jobtalk1.com. So let's get into it. So, alumni associations. I went to Northridge. I'm a member of the Cal State Northridge Alumni Association. They're really pretty active, Tommy. Our alumni association's a great place. If somebody wants to change careers, get a job, they just graduated. Is this a good place to start, Professor Bob?
Yeah, they are, Coach, especially if you went to a school where there's a special kind of tightness, because the schools had a reputation for decades or maybe even a century or two. Those are real tight. Now, one of the schools I went to, for example, you called an alumni from there and you mentioned that you were an alumni. They open the door. What do you want? What do you need? How can I help you? And I think there's more and more of that going on, because, people share the same experience. You go to Cal Northridge, or you go to Rider, or you go to Notre Dame, or you go to Clemson. Those people are tight. I mean, the guy across the street went to the University of Florida. You would not believe what goes on over at that house during football season.
No, I would. I'm a Duck. I mean, I get it. But let's say Cal State Northridge is a very, very fine school. It turns out great people. But if I said I went to Stanford, I mean, that's going to open up a lot more doors than, going to where I went to, don't you think?
Well, what's most interesting, and this is research-based, that if you went to Stanford or Michigan or Harvard or MIT, there's a high probability that you can get an interview. Whereas, if you went to Spring Hill or someplace like that, you may not get an interview. However, what we have found is that it's not so much where you went to school. I mean, it can get you an interview, but it's what that interviewer thinks you can do for their company. and what you've done for other companies if this isn't the first job you're looking for.
Well, we'll talk about that. To me, you hit the target. His name is Bob, but he's really a professor at a very prestigious school in South Florida, right near Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Preziosi.
Definitely.
His last name's Preziosi. And, of course, I'm here with my partner, Tom Cairns. Tom was the HR director for Homeland Security. But more importantly, he was also the HR director for NBC Studios. I wish my producer, I love this kid, Justin Powers, could do a little. And when I do NBC, you could do a little
chimes.
A little chime. Justin, maybe you could do a chime for us, an NBC chime. As soon as I say Tommy Cairns, you could hit the NBC chime. No, I mean he hates me. All right, Tommy, you graduated with honors. I'm assuming, right?
Actually, yeah.
No honors?
On the graduate level, I did. Yes. Not on the undergrad.
Oh, really?
Really.
So when you went, what was your first job out of college?
My very first job out of college was going in the military.
Really?
In the Air Force, yeah. I was, at that time when I graduated, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I filled the summer selling door to door.
No kidding.
I lasted in that job 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And came home and was greeted with a draft notice. And in November, I went into the Air Force. So
no kidding.
Which was really a great experience.
Now, where'd you do basic training in the Air Force?
Did Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio,
Sure.
and then Biloxi, Mississippi for tech school.
We need to get somebody from San Antonio. I mean, it's like one of the fastest growing communities in the United States. Did you like San Antonio?
I loved San Antonio.
Hill country, right?
I actually have a sister-in-law who lives in San Antonio.
So you became an HR director. You're our authority. You actually know stuff. I mean, I know nothing. You know everything. That's not true. I'm a cybermetrics analyst. I know a lot of stuff. But
I'm impressed with that.
You have to be impressed with a cybermetrics analyst like myself. But our show is about employment, jobs, careers. Every week we're going to be highlighting an employer. Next week we're going to highlight a cool employer. So tune in next week to Job Talk 1. What was your favorite subject in school, Tommy?
That's a good question. I had organization behavioral courses that were associated with human behavior.
So you were interested in this stuff. Okay. Well, yeah. Professor Bob Preziosi.
Yes, sir, Coach.
What was your
organization behavior is good stuff.
What was your favorite subject in school?
My subject favorite was probably social psychology, which is along the same lines as Tom's organization behavior. I also enjoyed a lot courses I took in how people learn, because I think it was that kind of combo of courses that taught me how to be a really, really good teacher, even though I didn't go into teaching right away. You know, I was an HR director like Tom was, but a much smaller place. I was a VP of training and development at a Fortune 50 company, but even Fortune 50s were small in those days.
Stop it, or I'm going to read your resume and everybody can take a nap this time of day in California. So let me bring a subject up. You have a great personality. You're very likable. Tommy Cairns is very likable. It seems to me that like the likability factor in life. I was telling somebody this morning that a young person that work on your likability factor. To me, that's more important than anything else, especially in interviewing. You guys jump in on this. Am I off base on this?
I have a little saying when it comes to work and the places where you're employed. You don't have to like the people you work with, but if you do, you really enjoy yourself and you have a lot of fun in doing so. So it's much more enjoyable to work with people you like or people that like you than
well, I know you're Mr. Humility, but you don't get the great jobs like you had unless you're likable, which you are. I mean, you're extremely likable, and I know Bob's likable. When you look at kids that are in school, Professor Bob, are they learning anything? Be honest. I mean, nobody. We only have 100,000 people listening to the show, but is anybody learning anything in college? Be honest.
Well, yeah, because I'm working with alumni, Coach. So I see them, 5 years later, 10 years later. I even see some 40 years later. And we have lunch, we chat on the phone, we email back and forth, and we talk about what's going on at work. because I am so obsessed with, hey, what's happening at work? What about those 4 conditions for a productive organization you talked about in 1991? How are you making them happen? Yes, they do learn things, but those are coming from certain courses. I would be remiss if I said that every course teaches them something that they're going to use someday. What am I? I'm out of high school decades now. I haven't talked about one of Shakespeare's plays. Why in the hell did I read all those?
No, I want to talk about that. Also, I want to talk about Lisa's tax service. If you come to California or you have any issues, you're too lazy to do your taxes, you're not smart enough, like I'm not smart enough to do my taxes, I got to go to Lisa's tax service, ladies and gentlemen, right here in Southern California. She is certified or licensed to represent you or her or your issues in front of the IRS. Lisa's tax service, and thank you, because our listeners actually are calling her and using her, Lisa's tax service. Also, our show is brought to you by Pools by Ben. So here's the story, right? My pool is full. We've had fires out here in the Santa Clarita, Southern California area, Professor Bob, as you know. My pool yesterday was unswimmable, and I like to swim every day because of the ashes. Literally, you should see the bottom of my pool. No problem. I called Pools by Ben. They came right out. Nobody else would do this. They came out. I said, I got to swim. Coach will be out there. Pools by Ben. They're very special. They do things other pool services don't come. Look them up, Pools by Ben. And of course, longtime sponsor of the Coach's Show, a Superior Financial Service. If you're going to start a business, you're going to open up a business here in Southern California, Superior Financial Services. All right, back to the professor in Florida, a little north of Fort Lauderdale, and of course my partner, Tom Cairns. So back to really getting an education. I don't understand why we don't have classes in teaching people how to speak properly, teaching people how to interview. There should be. Do you have career classes at your college? Do you have a class where a kid could go, learn how to interview, learn how to ask questions, learn about different careers? Companies are actually hiring.
Yes, we have a lot of courses that include speaking skills and writing skills, especially business writing skills. They're all incorporated into the general curriculum. They usually don't stand alone. But we also have a career services department, and they work like you can't believe, making sure that every student who graduates from here with a bachelor's degree gets at least one internship. So they have an opportunity to get the practical side of things. But, some of them are getting real practical stuff from their professors.
What's an internship? A free employment? Seriously, what is an internship? I hear this all the time.
Yeah, we try to get paid internships for ours. So if a young man or a young woman is majoring in marketing, we'll try to get them into a marketing department or into a marketing firm for an 8 to 12 week internship. And some of these students really eat these up. I've had students who took 3 internships before they got out of here, and I think they pick up so much practical stuff. They're really very, very useful. But the classroom needs to be very, very useful also. And I'm that way. A lot of professors are, but certainly not all of us.
You raise a good point, Bob, about the internships, and one of the things that maybe you can comment on this. I'm finding that many of the universities and schools have internships available, but not all of those are full, and not everyone takes advantage of those. And so you mentioned that one person who has had like 3 or 4, and quite frankly, when I was hiring and looking for employability, those were the people that I was looking for, because they demonstrated initiative, and they were living in California. They weren't on the beach. They were out there working. But I'm finding, are you finding it true that many of those internships go unfilled?
Yes, Tom. I was surprised to find out. Let's see, this is 2016. It was probably 2 springs ago. I ran into a couple of friends who work in that career development department, and they said, Bob, what's going on? We had almost 100 internships that weren't filled. and we had students who could have filled them. What's wrong with the students?
I'll tell you what's wrong. I'm going to tell you right now what's wrong. If you get some, go and get some oil for that chair. I mean, our microphones are expensive, and we're pulling up that squeaky chair. Our very special guest, Bob Preziosi, really one of the most, you're a professor and you have a personality, which is amazing, really.
Thank you very much. I owe that to my grandpa, I think.
Preziosi, am I saying that right, Preziosi?
Preziosi is perfect.
Preziosi.
He's actually in a rocker. That's why you hear the squeaking.
Oh, at the home? He's at the home? Is that where he's at?
He's on the porch there in Florida.
Yeah. So when you look at, how do I want to say this? Internship is code for I'm out of work, right?
No, internship is code for I'm getting ready to graduate and I'm trying to find something to do to figure out what kind of job I want when I finally get that degree.
Interesting.
They are not working, although you know what? Tom, you talk about looking for somebody who's really on fire. I've had a few, and I admit it's a few, but I've had some who had an internship and a job.
Right.
They get a 30 hour a week internship that they went to every day, and then they had a regular job, quote unquote, not a professional managerial job, but they were working another 30 or 40 hours a week at that job for pay.
I want to ask you, I like that. I like that person that has that kind of not only work ethic, but the want to. I've always said that your want to has to be bigger than you have to. Talking to Professor Bob Preziosi, and he runs the Huizenga School of Business there in Florida. It's the entrepreneurship teaching program for graduate students, graduate courses. So when you look at Wayne, have you met Wayne Huizenga? Have you ever met him?
I sure have. One time we even sat next to each other on the dais, and we were talking about our talks and talking about the other people who talk, saying we wish they all could have talked as good as we could.
Now, he's a billionaire. He owned the Dolphins. He owned a bunch of stuff. Give me 1 minute on him. Why is he different than the rest of us?
I think he's different because he's always on fire. His belly always has fire in it. He's very, very well liked, very, very driven, and he doesn't let anything faze him. He knows how to sway a little bit this way or a little bit that way if he needs to. But when he's on target, and he's super at picking good people. I always was impressed with people in all of his businesses that I met, and some of them lasted through all three of his big companies, how smart they were and how good they were, whether they were in marketing, deal making, human resources, whatever it was. Picking smart people, boy, was he good at that.
Hopefully you can stay over for another segment, because I want to get into, we're going to go to a commercial break here in a minute. I want to get, when we come back, Tom Cairns and the coach here on a show called Job Talk 1. You can go to jobtalk1.com, and you can listen on jobtalk1.com, and you also can listen on hometownstation.com. We're coming to you from Southern California, our flagship station at KHTS AM 1220. We love them. They're just the nicest people and the smartest people. But when we come back from break, I want to talk about driven, because I think I'm driven. Tom Cairns is driven. You're driven. Where's this DNA today in the millennials? And I don't want to get in a big, boxing match with you, but I have a sense that it's not there. In our pre-interview with you, we got into it a little bit, and you talked about, Coach, you're going to have to come back, ladies and gentlemen, to listen to what he said to me, but he hurt my feelings. I'm recovering right now. But when we come back on the show called Job Talk 1, I want to get into what's going on right now between the millennials and our generation, the baby boomers, because I think there's a divide, Tommy. Do you?
Well, there's certainly...
Don't answer.
Okay.
Can you answer when we come back?
I can answer when we come back.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Our show is produced by the one and only Justin Powers, and he's looking. Aren't you looking for the NBC thing, Justin? Come on, man. Every time I say Tom Cairns, how do you?
I actually had.
Do you get up in the middle of the night and that thing
What do
goes?
you call that a xylophone?
Yeah.
So I actually had that somewhere. I'll have to go look, and I'll bring
Can you
it
bring
in for
the
Justin.
xylophone? Yeah. Okay. We'll be right back on the show called Job Talk 1 with our professor, Bob Preziosi.